As I mentioned earlier, as families continue to struggle with record inflation and high gas prices, what is the Democratic leadership here in our nation's capital focused on? Well, I mean, for the last, 4 weeks, it's been focused like a laser on abortion. Of course, they've been trying to transgender America since the Biden administration came into office. And now they want to add to that a vote to try to codify into law the 2015 Supreme Court decision redefining marriage. I find this kind of interesting. You know, for years, they've let the courts do their business. And now that we have justices who actually recognize we have a constitution and stick to it, they all of a sudden realize we need to pass this. We need to codify it into law. Well, that's what they're trying to do this week. Joining me now to discuss this and more is Kana Gonzalez, Senior Director of Government Affairs here at the Family Research Council. Kana, welcome back to the program.
Great to be with you, Tony.
Okay, so tell us about an effort this week to codify into law the 2015 Supreme Court decision that redefined marriage.
It's amazing. You pointed it out, Tony, in the midst of so many crises and so many hardships that Americans are facing right now, Congress is focused like a laser on moving the left agenda even further. You get a sense of panic around here. They have brought a bill forward and introduced it today. It's called the Respect for Marriage Act. It really should be the Disrespect for Marriage Act. And they will bring it to a floor vote tomorrow, which is an unbelievable speed to bring something forward. And yes, as you say, it would seek to codify the Windsor and Obergefell decisions by which the Supreme Court tried to redefine marriage, as you recall, and tried to redefine it in law.
I must have missed something somewhere, Kana, because we were always told that it's Republicans that are always pushing the social issues and all of this stuff. It's the Republicans focused on abortion. It's the Republicans focused on marriage. Did I miss something?
No, I think someone hears the clock ticking. Someone's looking forward to the midterms in November.
Well, certainly this is not going to help when you see where the American people are
Right.
on this issue. So we have a link on the website, tonyperkins.com, that will take you over to a page where you can contact your member of Congress and tell them not to redefine marriage. Now, the Republican Party, Kana, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not because I helped write it, but the Republican Party platform in 2016, the year after the Supreme Court decision, is very clear on this issue and where the Republican Party stands.
Yeah, it's absolutely right, Tony. The Republican Party platform is very, very clear that in the recognition of natural marriage, marriages between one man and one woman. A very good friend of mine who came to this country as a legal immigrant many, many years ago and served in our armed forces, downloaded that platform and called me very excitedly, having no idea about our role, your role in that, and said this is the most conservative platform that the Republican Party has put out since 1948. He had been looking at them since 1948. The GOP platform has been very clear as to the definition of marriage. And it's also very clear about the role of the family in supporting children. We have seen so many examples recently of adults putting their desires before the needs of children. And I'm proud to say that the GOP platform goes against that.
Yep, and former President Trump embraced that party platform as well. Kana Gonzalez, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for giving us that update. And folks, again, go to tonyperkins.com. We've got a link under the episode resources where you can contact your member of Congress. As Kana said, this vote is probably going to take place tomorrow, so you need to act quickly and contact your member of Congress. This is one where it's especially important if you have a Republican member, that you communicate with them that you want them to adhere to the party platform on this issue, that marriage, natural marriage, is between a man and a woman. It doesn't matter what the court says. As we've seen with Roe v. Wade, that was thrown onto the ash heap of history as a result of justices looking at the Constitution. All right, switching gears here to the issue of education. We were talking earlier about the Title IX rules that were promulgated last week by the Biden administration. Well, last year, they put out this Dear Colleague letter that we were talking about with General Knudsen from Montana. The two are connected in that if the one goes down, the one that the judge put a pause on Friday, that could have implications for the larger rule, which is sweeping in its reach. Joining me now to talk about this and more is Meg Kilgannon. Meg, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Tony.
All right, before we get to that, I want to something came across my desk. You know, all of these billions and billions of dollars that were earmarked for COVID relief and, that have caused a lot of the inflation problem that we have. A lot of this was just thrown at the schools so that they could open their doors. They're supposed to put new filtration systems and I guess mask. And what we've found out, they've actually been masking other activities that undermine the very moral health of our children. Tell us about it.
Well, in Arizona, you had a situation where the director of the Department of Education there for the entire state, and if memory serves, we have a Republican governor in Arizona, and it would make sense to me that he probably appointed this person who's done this. Speaking of holding our Republican legislators to the feet to the fire on things. She's funded from the COVID relief money a classroom library project by one of the teachers there in Arizona. Now, this is a library that is going to be in the teacher's classroom. This isn't the library in the school that will benefit all the students. This is the library in the classroom for use while you're in the classroom. So that means the students wouldn't be taking these books home,
and
right?
the parents won't know about them.
The parents won't know what they've been reading. And anybody who's been through the young adult section at Barnes & Noble knows that the collection of books that are on offer there are very dark. They often have occult themes, and this content is highly sexualized. So that seems to be the theme that they're going for with this book purchase.
COVID money, going to purchase these LGBTQ books that will be hidden in classrooms to further poison the minds of children. Okay, let's switch gears, going back to the issue of the Title IX rules that were promulgated last week. There is a period until, I think, September the 12th.
Yes, we're in the 60-day comment period right now. And so there are groups that have comment portals up, and we are going to be having a comment portal open at the end of August for our folks to comment. We're going to have to comment on many different problems with this 700-page rule. There's the issue of the fact that they define sex to mean sexual orientation and gender identity. We know that that's not what 1972, on the basis of sex, meant in the minds of the folks who were voting on this at the time. They meant male or female, man or woman.
I mean, obviously.
So we'll have a comment on that. They are going to redefine pregnancy to include pregnancy and pregnancy-related conditions to include the termination of a pregnancy. So they're including a definition of pregnancy that means abortion.
So what would the implications of that be?
That would mean that a student could claim that her Title IX rights were being violated if she were not offered abortifacient drugs, the Plan B in the college bathrooms, et cetera,
Would this apply
et cetera.
to high schools?
It could absolutely apply to high schools. And with school-based health clinics becoming more and more in vogue, that's absolutely something that parents should be very worried about.
So this looks like a coming collision between states, and just on this one issue alone, not to mention the women's sports that we were talking about earlier. I mean, this is directly putting states in a position of losing federal money if they do not comply with the heavy hand of the federal government.
Yes, and as the Montana Attorney General so eloquently explained, they are doing this. They are promulgating this rule on a false interpretation of the Bostock decision that explicitly was written in the decision that it does not apply to Title IX. And so what does the Biden administration's Department of Education do as the first order of business before they can even write this 700-page rule?
Right. They do the colleague letter.
Do the Dear Colleague letter.
Right. But didn't I hear somewhere if you repeat a lie often enough, people will believe it?
I think you did hear that somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's what we're talking about. They're taking everything they can and running with it. Now, here's the reason I think this is important. And you were at the Department of Education under the Trump administration. These rules, to reverse these rules, are very difficult.
Yes.
Right, once they're in place. But not only is it difficult from a procedural process, but once you have jurisdictions doing this,
right,
to get them to, in fact, some of them are like Brer Rabbit. They want to be thrown into this, exactly. And so they actually like the fact that they're doing it because you have so much of this liberal ideology in our school system. But to change course 4 years, 2 years from now, of course it would take 2 years just to change the rules. 4 years, 6 years from now would be extremely difficult.
Yes. Well, the Department of Education under Donald Trump issued rules related to Title IX. And the first thing they did when they walked in was start rewriting those rules. So,
and how long did that take?
It didn't take them very long because well, for a lot of reasons. Due to a more cooperative civil service that greets a Democrat administration as opposed to a Republican administration. But the real danger in this Title IX rule is the harm that it is going to bring to children, especially women and girls, when you interpret sex to mean gender identity. It's just irresponsible. And people who have these erroneous ideas about the human person really shouldn't be in charge of children.
I mean, there's harm in a multitude of ways. I mean, we're actually talking physical harm. We've already seen this in Virginia,
right,
where this debate was going on, where we saw girls being assaulted in the restrooms in the schools. But then you have, I mean, how many girls will forego sports as a result of this?
Sure, they will. Some girls will say, "Well, why should I even try? I can't compete against the boys. I have brothers at home. I know that they can run faster than I can, or whatever the sport is. Why should I even bother to try?" And that is absolutely the opposite of the original intention of Title IX, which was to provide equal educational opportunities regardless of your sex.
Yeah. Now, I know that sports has been a big focus. It's something that, I mean, we're kind of a sports-driven culture. Me, not so much so. I mean, I played sports all through high school, appreciate sports, all of that. But, I mean, I think there's other issues. I'd like to see people more concerned about other issues, but they're concerned about the sports. But I think it's been an attention grabber because people have seen this and they've said, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And so then they've taken maybe a closer look at the whole situation. And, we've got the pronoun issues, we've got the bathroom issues. I mean, we're seeing a historic wave of activism as a result of this nonsense.
Well, when people really contemplate what it means for college athletes who are swimming at the University of Pennsylvania to have to dress and undress for swim meets in the presence of an intact biological male, that really tends to clarify the situation for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And this is going to happen in lower grades as well if these rules go through in the administration.
I thought schools were a place where people were supposed to learn.
Yes.
and not show and tell. I'm not talking about that time. They're supposed to be education, reading, writing, the basics, and we fall further and further behind. We've got just about a minute left. I want to talk about, or I want you to give folks direction because FRC Action has resources available. It's not too late to engage in the process of running for school boards, being involved, finding out what's happening with public information requests, find out what's happening in the classroom, like these hidden books in classrooms.
Right. We need school board members who are going to seek good legal advice, not these false interpretations of Bostock, who are going to make good decisions with the public interests and in children's interests. So at frcaction.org, ms.org/schools. We have resources there for you if you're interested in running for office. Pray about it.
Yeah, we've got
You're needed.
resources on how to put a campaign together, all kinds of stuff there for you that can help you in this process. My prediction, Meg, is that the midterm election, this 2022 fall election, is going to eclipse what we saw 12 years ago in the midterm election of 2010, where we had the Tea Party. I think now we're going to see mama bears rise up, protecting their kids, their children from this. I'm at a loss for words to describe it.
Our perspective from a biblical worldview is desperately needed in these spaces. We can't leave the arena.
Yeah. Meg, thanks for joining us.
For having me.